Today in this tutorial, we are going to learn how we can create a basic to-do app in ReactJS with TypeScript. And this tutorial is going to be a beginners friendly tutorial. So if you have a little bit ReactJS knowledge and don't have any kind of prior knowledge on TypeScript, then this tutorial will help you. In this tutorial, we are going to create this simple to-do app by using TypeScript, and in that process you will learn from basic to intermediate TypeScript knowledge, which will be more than enough for you to develop ReactJS projects with TypeScript. So let's see the demo of this app. So here, as you can see, this is the simple UI. We have the task field and the task details field, and we have this add task button, and underneath it we have this message: you have no task for today, start adding some. So here it is mentioning that we don't have any kind of task here. Let's put something here: learn React with TypeScript, learn it from scratch. Okay, so I have added it, and after adding it, we can see this is the list, this is our task, and here we have the delete button, and by clicking on this delete button we can delete the task, but right now I am not going to delete it. Let me add few more tasks. After learning React with TypeScript, let's learn React Native with TypeScript. So after learning this, you can implement this knowledge in React Native also, because as you know, React Native is created on top of ReactJS. Then after that, let's add learn TypeScript, learn it from scratch. I have added that, and then maybe learn Flutter. Let's add that, and as soon as I have added it, we have a warning over here, and the message is saying you are adding too many tasks for the day, don't put too much pressure on you. So it is just a warning, but it is not preventing us to add any more tasks. As you can see, we still can add task over here. So let me just delete this. We can delete the task from here also, so let's clean that. So this is the project which we are going to create today. So if you are interested in this kind of tutorial, then hit the like button, subscribe to my channel for more tutorials like this, and don't forget to hit the notification bell icon so that you get notified whenever I post a new tutorial on this channel. So without wasting any more time, let's get started with the project. Okay, so here first I'm going to create the project, and to create the project I'm going to use Vite. Vite is a front-end development tool which makes it easy to develop front-end application. So by using that, I'm going to create this application. And to use Vite, we don't need to install anything on our machine. You just need to have the Node.js installed, and then you can use Vite to create React Native app, as I'm going to create here. So it will be npm create Vite latest React TS simple to do. So this is our project name. Now hit enter, and from here I'm going to select React. So hit enter, and here I'm going to select this TypeScript, which is the first option. So it has been created. Now we need to go to this project. So I'm just copying it, and let's just open it in my Visual Studio Code. And here we can see some basic things present here. And here first we need to do npm install. So after this npm install, we have this node modules directory, and with that all the error messages have gone. So now let's run it by npm run dev, and it has been opened to this URL. So let's click here, and here we can see the basic setup of the app, which is coming from this app.tsx file, and we don't need anything. So I'm just getting rid all of this, and then I'm going to create functional component. Let's get started. Okay, so here it is, and along with that I don't need this app css, so I'm going to delete this, and with that I'm going to delete this index css also completely, and in this file I'm going to place my css code which I have already prepared. You can get that code from the link provided in the description below. So I'm going to paste those codes here. So here it is. So now let's save it, and with that you can see that it has been updated. Now let's focus on to creating the app. So here first I'm going to provide this main, and within it I will have the article, and then I will have a div, and in that div within h2 I can have the title of the task and the description of the task. Okay, so these are the styles coming from my index.css file. So first, let me just create a new component which will hold the task. This is the part of the task which I'm going to move to the new component. Here I'm going to create a new folder called component, and within that I will create task.tsx file, and in that I'm going to return these things. So let's just cut it from here and paste it here, and now I need to export it, and here import the component, right? So nothing changes, and with this component here we need to introduce the TypeScript. So for this component here we can pass the props, and we can pass this title and description as prop from this app.js. So here we can add the title, and the title would be learn ReactJS with TypeScript, and then we can add description, learn it in details. For this task component we can accept these two props. So here we need to define the type of the props, and that we can do by providing this colon, and right side of this colon within this curly brace. So that means it will be an object of the types which we want for this prop. So here we are first accepting the title, and for the title we need to provide the type. So here we are passing the string, that is a type which TypeScript supports, so we can provide string, and then we have the description. So here also we can provide the type, and this will also be string. If we have number, then we have number type also, but for this one it will be string type. And as we have typed it properly, so now we can provide that as props dot title and description, right? So here it will be title, and then we can provide the description. But also I can do the destructuring, and here I can accept title and description, and I can use that instead of this props.title. I can use the title here, and then I can use the description. So this part is for the type definition, and this part is for the normal JavaScript destructuring which we can do for the React props. So with that, here we can see it is showing the updated data from these props which we are passing to this component, and with this we are providing the type safety to this component, so that we cannot provide any kind of other prop which we are not accepting, such as id. So here you can see if I provide id or any kind of other prop which is not accepted by this component, we are going to have the error. And in this error it is telling us that the id is not assignable for this type. This id type does not exist. So it is good to catch the error while writing the code, right? So that is the benefit TypeScript provides us. So let's get rid of it, and now here let's focus into this part. If we will have multiple props, as you can see here we have only two props, and for these two props we have this part, this object, which is the basic JavaScript object destructuring, and then in this part we have the type definition. If here we will have multiple props, then this part will become pretty messy and will be difficult to understand. To handle that, we can create custom type from this object of the type. So let me cut it from here and create the type definition by this type keyword, and let me provide the type name as task type, and here we can provide it. Now let's use that type here. So that's how we can create the custom type, and here we are creating this custom type with this type keyword. We have another option by which we can create the type, and that is interface. If we are using interface, then we cannot use this equal to sign. That time it will be like this: interface, then the custom type name, and then the object, like this. So these are the two ways by which we can define our custom type, and it is up to your preference which one you want to use, and my preference is the type keyword. So that is how we can create the custom type, and we can use it here. And now our code is much more cleaner and easier to read. And nothing changes here because we haven't changed anything, we have just made the code more readable. Now another thing we can do here, maybe instead of this description prop we want to provide it as children prop. So we don't need this description, and let me close this task here and let's provide the description as children prop. So as I have changed it, we are seeing the error, and here the error is that children does not exist on this type, so the type children haven't been created. And we can change that by changing this description as children, and the type could be string, but that is not correct type for the children prop, because here we can see that it is a string, but it is not a string because in the children prop we can provide JSX and it is also being treated as JSX. Let me make it clear. If I am providing a paragraph wrapping for this text, then it is a JSX, and that time it is not a string. So we need to use a different type other than the string. So for that, here it will be React node, this one, and this is coming from React. So React node is a valid JSX type which is provided by React, which we can then use to accept JSX element. So here instead of description it will be children, and instead of this paragraph description I can provide children because paragraph is already coming from this, right? So now after saving it, we are not seeing any change because all the contents are same. We have just changed the prop. Previously it was description prop, now it is the children prop which we are accepting in this task component, right? And there is another alternative way to get the children prop. So here we are taking the children prop like this, but we can get it in a different way, and let me show you that. So here for this kind of approach we can do by interface as I have already mentioned, but with the type keyword we can do another thing which is props with children, and this is also special prop which is coming from React. Now let me just comment it out, and with this here we can see it is already coming with the children prop. By defining this we are accepting the children prop, and the children prop type is React node, which we have defined here like this. But with this one we don't need to define it, it is already available, and this props with children will take a generic type. That means here we need to provide our custom type definition. So as you can see here for the title we are having the error because it doesn't exist here. So here we need to provide that, and that will be the title string. Now it is also same as this one. Now save this. With this we can see nothing changes. So any one of this approach is acceptable. It is up to you which you want to go with. Now I want to show you another way to accept the custom type. So here you can see I am using the arrow function to create the functional component, and there is another way which is the normal approach by creating a function, and in that approach it will be like this, right? For this function definition this kind of approach is fine, and for this arrow function definition this approach is also fine, but we have different approach for this arrow function which can be used, and you can see that approach in many projects. So that's why I'm going to show you that. Let me first comment it out. So here we can see that the error message have been gone, so that is perfectly fine, right? And this approach already we have seen that it is working perfectly fine, but we have another approach for this arrow function which is this type definition fc. This fc is another type which is coming from React. That means it is mentioning that this constant is a functional component, and for this functional component here we can provide the type which is our task type. So this is also an alternative approach to defining component with the type. This approach is also can be seen in many places, but I'm not going to use this one. I just wanted to show you that this is also available and many developers use that. So I'm happy with this approach and I'm going to use this one. As we have spent lots of time to understand different ways to define the type of the prop, now let's create a new component called header here, and that component will accept an image and a text. So here first let's create header.tsx, and here let's create a functional component, and in this component first we will have a header wrapper, and within this header we will have an image. Then for the header image src we need to provide a value, and for the alt attribute also we need to provide some value, and then we will display the children prop. So we need to accept this children and this src and alt values. So for that first we need to create the type, and for this type we will have the image, and for the image src we will have the string type, and for the alt that is also will be type of string, and we will have the children and that will be a React node. So now here we can use that. So we have these props, so we can use props.image.src. also we can do the object destructuring as we have done before. So here we can accept image and the children, and the children we are using here. Instead of this props.image we can use image.src like this, and for the alt also we can use image.alt. Now save this one, and then here let's import it, and for this header we need to provide image. We have an image in this assets directory. Let's import that. Import header image from assets react svg, and here we can use that header image. And yes, it will not be header image here, it will be src header image. And for the alt we need to provide a string, and then we need to provide the closing tag of it, and then we need to provide children jsx component over here. It could be my tasks. Now after saving, here we can see the text is visible here but the image is not. So let's see what is the issue. Okay, the issue is it is image but it should be img. Img is the valid html tag. So now save that. We can see that image is showing perfectly fine, right? So it's working fine. Now here we can do another thing. As we are accepting image src and alt, this attribute name is matching with the prop types which we are accepting. So instead of using this we can do this. So in this way also we are good. So by doing this we are optimizing the code, and as we have the src and alt same name as the attribute of this image tag, that's why we can destructure this image prop and use it like this. So this 3 dot is destructuring this prop. So that's how we can use it. So that's done. So now after understanding component and prop types, we need to learn about another fundamental thing in React, that is useState hook. So now we need to understand how we can use useState hook in React by using TypeScript. So here let's create a state called task, and we can set the task by this set task, and it will be useState which needs to be imported from React, and this task will be an empty array, and here we need to define the type of this array, otherwise it will be set to never. We want it to be our custom type. So let's create that type, and that will be task type, and for this type we will have the title. The title would be string, then the description, that will also be a string, and we could have another value called id which is type of number. So here we need to define that this array needs to be array of these types. So we can define that like this. So we have specified this type, and we need to mention that it will be array of this type. So right now this task is set to array of this task type. So we can specify it like this, otherwise we can specify it another way, which will be this generic type array, then our custom type. This also means the array of this custom type. Okay, so here we can see this is the same thing. So we can use this way, or it could be in this way. So both of these things mean same. Now to handle this useState, here I am creating a button. Let's name it as add task, and for on click of it we will create handle add task function. So let's create it. and here we will set task, and while setting the task here we will handle it in a way that we will add new task in an array, so it will be dependent on the previous tasks that we can get like this. So here we will have the previous task, and then here we can add the new one, and then we need to return it. So we will return with previous task, and with that we will have the new task. So let's create the new task here, and for this new task here we can specify the task type. So this new task should be the type of this custom type, and by this we can get the auto completion from the IDE that these are the values we need to specify. So for the ID I can use math.random to generate random ID. For the title right now it would be a generic title, so I'm copying this one, and for the description also it could be this, and later on we will get it from the input field, but as of now I will use it as hard coded. We are creating the new task and then we are returning it along with the previous task, so it is adding the value into this tasks array, and then we can use that task array over here. So here by using map function we can return it. So this thing needs to be returned here, and instead of this I can use task.title, task.description over here, and let me wrap it with li tag, and for this li tag key let's use task.id, and let's wrap it in ul tag. So it's looking good. Now let's just save it, and after saving here we can see the button. Let's click here. Yeah, so it is adding the task to our array of tasks. So the functionality is good. Now I want to move this list from this app.tsx file to another file. So I am going to create a new component for this task list. So let's create a new file here called task list, and here we are going to return this. So let's cut it from here, and here I'm going to paste it, and for this we are going to accept some prop, and here we need to provide the type of the prop, and here we need to have this task, and this task is the type of this custom task type. So let's create that. So here it will be type task list type, and here it will be task, and this task will be array of this custom type. So here we can export this custom type, and here we can import that. So it will be task type, and it will not only be task type, it will be array of this task, as we are mapping through this tasks array, right? So it should be array of this. So here we can do it like this, or otherwise as I have mentioned that we can do array like this. Any one of these approach will work. So here let's add that task list type, and instead of props let's destructure it as task. Here this error have gone, and now we have this error, which means we need to import the task component. We can save it, and after saving here let's import that task list, and for the task list here we need to add the task. It will be the task state which we are passing. So now save it. After saving, let's see, the functionality is working perfectly fine, right? So it's good. Now I want to add a delete button for each task. For that let's add a button and provide delete text in it. So that's how it's showing right now. Okay, and now we need to add a delete functionality. So here in this app.tsx we have added this handle add task. So similar to that we will add handle delete task, and while deleting the task we need to accept the ID of the task. So here it would be ID and the type would be number. So here as we are going to accept only one prop, so that's why I have defined the type over here. I don't need to create any custom type for this function. Now we can set task based on the ID. So here as we have seen that we can get the previous task and create a new task. So similarly here also we can get previous task. We can return the task by filtering out the task with the ID of this value. So it will be previous task dot filter. By this filter function we are filtering out the task from the task array, which will include this ID. So we will get task and we will match whatever task ID is not matching with the ID which we are accepting here. Those will be added to this new array and set to this set task, and when this ID is matching, that is not going to add here. So this filter function is doing that. So now we need to pass this handle delete task function to this component, and from this component it needs to be pass this function to this delete button. So here the props is traveling to different components. This method is called prop drilling. So here let's add a new prop on delete task, and here pass this handle delete task function. And right now we are not accepting this prop for this task list component which we need to add here. So here it will be this on delete task which prop we have added here, and for this one we are going to accept number. It will be void type because we don't want to return anything. We are just going to accept the ID. Here we need to pass this on delete task to this task component. So here we need to add that. Let me create another prop which we need to define in this task component, and here I can add this on delete task, but before that let's add it here and then we can add it here. Now let's accept this on delete prop in this task component. So here it will be on delete and it will be similar to this. So I have just copied it and pasted here, and here I am using on delete, here I am using on delete task because that is the prop we have defined. So from here we are passing this on delete task prop, and from this component we are passing on delete prop, and I have used different prop name to avoid any confusion. This on delete task we are accepting in this task list and passing it to task component by on delete prop, and here we are going to use that for this button on click, and here also we need to accept it and then we can use that here. And for this on delete we need to provide ID, but here we are not accepting any ID, we are accepting just the title, so we need to accept that as well. So here we need ID number also, that we need to pass here. So here with the title we need to pass the ID, and the ID would be this task.id. Now save this, and here we are getting this ID. So now we can pass it here, but before that let me add it here. So now the error have been gone. Now save this file, this one have been saved, and finally save this app.tsx file. Now let's click on this delete. So it is deleting the task, right? So the delete functionality is working perfectly fine. Now we need to create a form instead of this button, and from that form input we are going to add this title and the description for the task. So now for that let's create a new component called new task, and here it will be a form, and in that form we will have two input field. Within paragraph tag we are creating label for the first input field which will be your task, and then the input field, and the type would be text, and the ID for it will be task as well. So here we can add HTML for with the ID which we have provided here. So now similarly let's copy this one for another input field, and that would be details, and after that let's add the button add task, and here we are not going to add the on click as we have added here because we are adding it in a form, and while this form will be submitted, that time we will add the task, and by clicking on this button this form will be submitted. So we are going to handle the submit functionality of this form, and for that let's create handle submit, and here for the on submit let's add that. Now save it, and here instead of this button let's add this new task, and this needs to be imported. And let me clear this task component which we are not using here. Now save that. With that being saved, we can see this is how our app is looking right now. Okay, so now let's add the functionality of this handle add task in this newly created form. So to handle add task, we need to get the value from this input field, and to get that value I'm going to use useref hook. So first let's create a task constant by using useref hook, and similar for the details, and let's add those for this input field. For the HTML elements, we have the ref attribute, and with this ref attribute we can add this newly created useRef hook. Similarly, let's add it for the details, but here we can see we are having some error. Here we can see lots of error, but when we have multiple error nested like this, in that case most of the time it will be the innermost nested message which we need to look into, and this is saying that type undefined is not assignable to. So right now we haven't provided any type or value in this ref. So first we need to add the null value here. So we are saying that initially it will be null and later on it will have eventually some value when we will handle it. Let me add this null for the detail also, because by adding it the error is now gone. Here also it is null, so it's fine, but along with it we need to add the type also. So here we can add the generic type, and the type for this would be HTML input element, and it will be same for this one, HTML input element. And you can notice that these things are not have been imported, as we have imported React node from React, because this HTML input element is coming from the TypeScript directly, and it is set to TypeScript because in the TS config we have this lib, this ES 2020 and this DOM. So from this DOM library it is getting this HTML input element. When we have created the project with wait, that time these configurations automatically set up. Now let's focus on to this handle submit function. So here first we need to handle this click on this button, and when clicking on this button we need to make sure that by submitting the form the page is not get refreshed. For that it would be event.prevent default. This will prevent the page to be refreshed after submitting the form. So here we will get the event, and this will be a type of form event which is coming from the React. And with this we can assign a generic type which will be HTML form element, and this is also similar to this HTML input element. These are coming from the DOM configurations of the TypeScript. So these are coming from the TypeScript. That's why it is not needed to be imported from anything, as we have this form event from React. So when we have set up it like this, then we can get the value of this input field. Let's first create a constant called entered task, and it would be the task of this reference, then dot current, then dot value. So we are getting this solution because we have added this HTML input element to this ref. So that's why we have all the attributes associated with HTML input element. Without providing this we will not get these suggestions. So let's use the value over here, and while we are adding proper type of these things, then we don't need to add this question mark, because these have been added by the IDE, because it is not sure if we will have these values or not, but we have explicitly added that it is form event and we will get that when we will submit it. So that's why we can get rid of it from here, and from here also we can get rid of this question mark, but instead of that we can use this exclamatory sign that we will definitely have some value. Okay, let's copy it for the entered details. Now here we need to add this function. So here let me create a new prop on at task, and for this on at task I'm going to pass this handle at task. And for this handle at task, right now we are not taking any values, but we need to take the title and the description values. So instead of this we will have the title and the description. So here we have the task and details. So let me accept it. Here task, it would be type of string, then we will need details and it will be same string, and we can use that. So for the title we will assign task, and for the description we will assign details. So now we need to accept this on at task prop in this new task component, and for that let's create a new type. It would be new task type, and for it we will accept this prop, and it will be a function type. This function will not return anything, but on this function we need to pass these two values, right? So we need to accept those. So it will be task string and then details string. And here we are going to use this custom type and we are going to get this on add task. Let's add it here. Here we need to add the task and the details, and this task and the details would be the enter task and then enter details. Now save this and let's see test task, test details. Now click add. So it is adding these things. Okay, and now we can delete this. So it is actually deleting the task properly. So the delete functionality is also working. Now with this I want to just reset this form when I'm going to add the task. That means when I'm going to click on this button, that time with the addition of new task we are going to reset this form. That we can do here by this event.currentTarget reset. Now save this. Now let's click here. We can see it has been gone. So test task, test details added, and the form have been reset properly, right? So adding the task from the form input element is working perfectly fine. Now we are just left with one more thing for this tutorial, and that is while adding the task, while adding the multiple task, that time I want to display some message over here. So if there will be more than 3 or 4 tasks, that time we will display a message over here, and also I'm going to display a message over here while we don't have any kind of task present. So that functionality I want to implement now. So for that we need to create a new component called infobox.tsx, and for this info box we will return aside, and within it we will have a warning text and then the actual warning with children. And for this one let's create a custom type called infobox type, and here we are going to have two mode, which is a hint mode and a warning mode. So for hint I want to display a message when there is no task added. So right now here I want to display a message, so that would be hint mode, and a warning mode would be a mode when we have added too many tasks. Okay, so that's why it will be hint and another one would be warning. So these are the literal type which I am using. So these are the string, but I am not using a string type here, but I am specifying that these are the two mode which I am going to accept. So these are the literal type, and I am adding this pipe symbol to create the union of these two. So this is a union type. So either this and this we could have as mode. So here we can see that these are the two type which we have provided. Then we will have the children, and it would be React node from React. So here we will get the prop, and the prop type would be this info box. We are getting this mode and the children. So here we are adding the children, but we are not using the mode. So let's use that. If we have mode of hint, then we are going to return this without this warning title. So I am returning different things based on this mode. Instead of this I can check for the mode here and return the warning if the mode is warning, and return null if the mode is not warning. But I'm not doing that because here I'm going to add different CSS classes for different mode. So here let's add the class name, and these classes are already been added here in the index CSS. So here we have the info box hint, info box warning. So those are the classes I'm going to use. It would be first info box, then it would be info box hint for the hint mode, and for the other mode which is the warning, it would be info box and info box warning. Save this one and let's use it in this task list. So here based on this task array I'm going to display that. So here let's check task.length. If the length is 0, that means no task have been added yet. I'm going to return info box, and that needs to be imported. And here we need to specify the mode. Here let's specify the mode, and we can see that we have hint and warning. So that is the literal type which is working. We can see the suggestion that we can add hint or warning, not just any kind of string. We need to just add any one of these two. So I have added that, and let's add children prop of it. you have no task for today, start adding some. So now save this. Here we can see we have the info box when we don't have any task. And now when I have added some task, that info box message have been gone and we have this task, right? And the functionality is working similarly. Now we need to add the warning mode info box message. So let's work on that. So here we need to check if task.length is greater than equal to 4. So that means if it is 4 tasks or more than that, then we will display the warning, and that warning needs to be displayed along with this task list. So for that, here we need to add a wrapper, and here we are going to output the warning. So for that, let's create a variable called warning box, and it will be type of React node because it will hold a JSX similar to this. So it will be warning box equal to info box, and the mode would be warning, and here let's add some warning message. So this is the message I'm going to display as a warning, and here we need to output this warning box along with this list of tasks. Now save this one and add few more tasks. So here we can see when we have 4 tasks, that time it is showing the warning, but the style is not working properly, but we can see that warning box component is showing here, right? So now let's see what is the issue. Info box warning. Okay, and along with that we have the different kind of severity associated with it. So here let's add warning medium. Okay, so now it is showing the message perfectly fine, right? So that's how we can create the union type. But along with it, I want to implement another thing, which is this medium. Here you can see we have different kind of severity for this warning. So low, medium and high. So these are the severity which I have added in the CSS to have different kind of styling for this warning. I want to add that only for warning. So here we can add severity, and this one will also be union type. So we have low, medium and high, and we can use that here. So let's use template literal so that we can use the variable here severity, and to use that we need to accept it here, and then we can use it here like this, and then we need to add it here. So here we can see the error, and the error is that we need to add the severity. So let's add high. So here we can see the warning have the style of the high severity, but with this one we can see another warning here for the hint mode. Here also we need to add the severity. Here it is saying that severity is missing, and it will show the error if we don't add it, but we know that we don't need the severity for this hint mode. I don't want to add the severity prop for this hint mode. I just want to add the severity mode for the warning. That we need to fix, and for that we have the discriminated union type, and that we can do by creating a new type which would be hint box type, and that will be similar to this, but it will not have the warning. It will only have the hint, and for the hint we are not accepting any kind of severity, and here it will be warning box type, and this time it would be only mode of warning with the severity. And now let's create the type of info box type which we are accepting here, and this time it will be union of these two custom type. This info box type is now union of these two types. So for hint mode we have the hint box type which doesn't have the severity, and that's why here we cannot destructure it like this, because for the hint mode we don't have the severity prop. So instead of destructuring it here, we need to use props, and then we can destructure it here. So we will have the mode and the children, and this mode and children is applicable for here. So here we have the children and we have the mode hint. If we don't have the hint mode, then we will have the warning mode, and that time we can destructure the severity prop from the props. So here we can get the severity, and we can get it and we can set it here. So now save this Now we can see we are having an error if we are setting the severity in hint mode, and that is exactly what I want. I don't want to set the severity when I'm using hint mode. I just want to set the severity when I have the warning mode. Okay, so with that, let's use a different severity, medium, and now let's see. So this is how it's showing right now. So it's working perfectly fine as I want, right? And by deleting the task we have this hint mode, right? So everything is working perfectly fine. So this is the tutorial, guys. I hope you have learned something new from this tutorial. If you do so, then hit the like button. Let me know by commenting down below. If you have any kind of suggestion for me, then also let me know. And don't forget to share this tutorial with your friends and colleagues, and I will see you guys in my next tutorial. Until then, have a great day. Goodbye.